Imagine stepping into the wilderness, not with, a pre-packed survival kit, but with just the raw, intuitive knowledge to thrive using only what nature provides. We're talking about genuine self-reliance here, the kind of deep connection our ancestors just understood.
It really is about moving beyond what's in your pack and, well, tapping into the environment itself, seeing it as your ultimate resource.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into that fascinating world of bushcraft survival. Our insights are coming straight from excerpts of the Ultimate Bushcraft Survival Manual, which is honestly an incredible resource for anyone serious about these skills.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from this manual. We want to give you a bit of a shortcut, to being truly well-informed on these fundamental wilderness abilities. Maybe even challenge some common ideas you might have.
Get ready for some surprising facts, maybe some practical wisdom that might just shift how you look at the natural world.
Definitely. There's some really interesting stuff in here.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, laying some crucial groundwork, preparation and immediate dangers. Before you even think about heading out, the manual makes a point that seems obvious, but, well, people forget it. Sharing your plan with someone back home.
All the details, right. Your route, destination, when you expect to be back.
Everything. Because if you don't check in,
Uh-huh. That's their cue. And they know where to look. It's literally a lifesaver. Beyond that, the manual really stresses getting oriented before you go, like actually studying a map of the area.
and bringing the map and a compass, obviously, makes navigation so much smoother.
Reduces your chances of getting lost in the first place, doesn't it? And then there's how you dress.
Ah, yes, dressing the part. The manual says prioritize layers, wool, synthetics, and the big one, skip cotton. In most conditions, anyway. Why is cotton such a no-go?
Well, they often call it killer cotton in survival circles because once it gets wet, and it gets wet easily, it loses all its insulating value, and it takes forever to dry, so it just wicks heat away from your body, chills you super fast. That's a straight path to hypothermia if it's cold or wet.
Right. Wool and synthetics, though, they keep some warmth, even when damp.
Exactly. Huge difference. It's really fundamental for staying warm and dry out there.
Okay, that makes sense. Now,
Yeah.
shifting gears a bit, danger strikes. The manual highlights something interesting, that first aid actually becomes more important than shelter in the short run if you're facing, like, immediate danger, severe bleeding, trouble breathing, shock.
Yeah, that prioritization is crucial. Your instinct might be to find cover, right? Build a shelter.
Huh.
But if you're bleeding out or can't breathe, a shelter isn't going to help you right now.
You can build a shelter later. Can't get that blood back.
Precisely. The manual really pushes this idea of learning to play doctor the ancestral way, using what you have, making what you need. It details some key items, even if you don't have a full modern kit.
So it's about that ingenuity, but what modern essentials does it suggest pairing with that?
Well, it talks about things like quick clot ACS, that's an advanced agent to stop bleeding fast, and a proper tourniquet for those really bad limb bleeds. But then it combines that with versatile stuff like a triangle bandage. You can use that for slings, dressings, even an improvised tourniquet if you have to.
And the basics too, right? Antiseptic wipes, saline wash for eyes.
Absolutely. iPads, too. Covers the essentials.
And get this is amazing. The manual describes making an improvised mud cast for a broken limb. Sounds incredibly basic, right? But it says it's surprisingly supportive. Heavier? Sure, but it works.
That's pure bushcraft ingenuity, isn't it? Born from necessity. And it ties into how the body itself responds. The manual actually explains our own amazing natural responses to injury.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like how severed blood vessels actually contract on their own to limit bleeding. How blood platelets rush in to form clots. Muscles around the injury stiffen up, kind of like a natural splint. And your heart rate increases to compensate for blood loss. It's pretty incredible what our bodies can do.
Wow. Okay, so with that in mind, beyond the medical stuff, what are the absolute must-haves for your gear?
Signal equipment is vital. A simple whistle carries farther than your voice. A signal mirror can flash for miles. For water, purification tablets in a good container are just so convenient, a lightweight alternative to boiling everything.
Saves time and fuel. And for repairs, the manual has this bold statement, something like, if you can't fix it with duct tape and paracord, you probably don't need it for survival.
Haha, yeah, it's a strong claim, but there's a lot of truth to it. Those two things are incredibly versatile. Duct tape for patching, fixing even makeshift bandages, and 550 cord, paracord with all those inner strands, you can use it for everything. Lashing shelters, making snares, repairs.
A massive range of uses, and of course, a knife. A quality knife.
Absolutely essential for dozens of reasons. And the manual makes a great point. Bring a backup blade, just in case you lose or break your main one.
Good advice. Never rely on just one critical tool. Okay, moving from prep to setting up camp. Shelter smarts. Site selection is key, the manual says. What are we looking for or avoiding?
Well, you want to avoid obvious dangers, right? Poison ivy patches, snake dens, unstable trees. And crucially, it says to scrape the ground bare where you plan to sleep. Check for anthills, sharp rocks, anything that'll make your night miserable.
Smart. And fire safety around these shelters.
Non-negotiable, especially with natural materials. They can go up in flames fast. Keep your fire at least 12 feet, maybe 4 meters away. And downwind, always downwind.
That seems like a common mistake waiting to happen if you're cold and tired. What about making any shelter better? Universal tips.
Yeah, the manual gives tips that work whether it's a jumble hut, snow cave, or simple lean-to. Things like making it compact to hold heat, ensuring you have a vapor barrier against moisture from the ground or condensation, and insulating the floor. Little things that boost effectiveness and comfort.
Makes sense. And it mentions one specific shelter, the Wickiup. That's interesting. Common in the American Southwest, apparently.
And other places globally, too. It's basically a small, tippy-like frame made from poles covered with brush or mats. Its genius is adaptability. You can build it with a steep roof to shed rain or snow easily.
Or flatter for shade.
Exactly. Broad and squat for shade and ventilation in hot, dry places. Simple but really effective design tailored to the climate.
That ingenuity is amazing. Okay, on to something even more critical. Water. Sourcing it, purifying it, lifeblood, right?
Right.
The manual starts with a warning. Eating snow is a bad idea. I think a lot of people imagine doing that.
It's a classic movie myth, but dangerous. The manual explains it takes about 10 quarts of snow to make just 1 quart of water, and eating it directly just plummets your core body temperature. That's asking for hypothermia. You have to melt it in a pot near a fire, let it warm up.
Okay, good to know. What about collecting dew or frost? You can do that with a cloth, right?
You can, yeah. Absorbent cloth or even dried grass. But here's the catch. The manual insists you always disinfect that water.
Why? It seems so clean, just condensed moisture.
Because its cleanliness depends entirely on the surface it formed on. Think dust, pollution, bird droppings, insect eggs. Whatever was on that leaf or rock is now in the water, so purified.
Another myth debunked. Cactus water. Not really a thing like in cartoons.
Nope, cacti don't really have liquid water sloshing around, but the manual points out that some plants and trees can be seasonal water sources.
Okay, now this is fascinating. The idea of getting drinkable water directly from a plant.
Yeah, especially tree sap. Maple, sycamore, birch, walnut, hickory sap, it's safe to drink. Except for the introduced Norway maple, apparently. It flows mainly in late winter, early spring. And get this. Water tapped directly from these plants usually doesn't need purification.
Seriously, why not?
Because the wood itself acts as a filter. It's capable of filtering out bacteria, protozoa, pretty much everything except viruses, which are less common in those sources anyway. It's amazing.
That's a potential lifesaver, a direct drinkable source.
Yeah.
But even knowing where to look, you need to spot dehydration, right? The symptom.
Absolutely crucial. The manual outlines the progression. Starts with dizziness, headache, then moves to decreased urination, maybe constipation. As it gets worse, you might see delirium, sunken eyes, skin losing elasticity.
Low blood pressure, rapid heartbeat.
Right. Knowing those signs tells you when it's getting serious, when you need immediate medical help as possible, or just to prioritize hydration above all else.
And for making murky water usable, the manual mentions the gypsy well. Simple idea.
Very simple but effective. You basically dig a hole, maybe a foot deep and across, about a foot away from the edge of your muddy pond or stream. Water seeps through the soil into your hole, and the earth filters out the larger sediment, the cloudiness. It clarifies the water, making it much better for boiling or using tablets.
Clever. Okay, next up, fuel, fire, and food. Mastering fire, truly the heart of bushcraft. Starts with tinder, right?
Absolutely. Gotta have good tinder. The manual really emphasizes wood shavings. You can almost always find dead, dry wood somewhere, even in wet conditions, maybe under logs or on the lee side of trees. Scrape off fine shavings, they catch a spark well.
And then building the fire itself isn't just random sticks, the fire lay.
Right, it's about structure. A small, carefully built arrangement of tinder and small sticks, like a tiny log cabin or teepee. This structure allows airflow and helps the flame catch and grow onto bigger fuel. Lots of different ways to build one depending on conditions.
In getting that initial spark or ember, the manual goes beyond matches.
Oh yeah, It covers the traditional methods, flint and steel, the bow drill, the hand drill, even the fire saw. Takes practice, but very reliable once mastered. And it highlights char cloth, that pre-charred piece of cotton.
Yeah, great for flint and steel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also excellent tinder for using a magnifying lens, focusing sunlight, or for catching sparks from a ferro rod, those modern spark strikers. It just holds an ember so well from the tiniest spark.
Super versatile. Okay, fire's going. Time to cook. Safety first, always. Key warnings.
Handle hot liquids carefully, obviously. Keep knives sheathed when you're not actively using them. Avoid synthetic clothes that melt easily or really loose clothing that could catch fire. Keep water and maybe a shovel nearby. And the big one, never leave a cooking fire or any campfire unattended, ever.
Non-negotiable safety rules. Got it. Now, for the cooking itself, beyond just roasting on coals, what are some of the more advanced or ingenious methods in the manual?
Well, one interesting tip is using hot rocks inside larger animals, like if you got a wild turkey or a raccoon. Heating rocks in the fire and putting them inside the body cavity helps cook it faster and more evenly from the inside out. Improves food safety too.
Clever. And building ovens.
Yeah, building a stone oven.
Yeah.
You use large flat stones to build a sort of box or dome. You build a fire inside it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, get those stones really hot. Then you scoop out the embers, put your food inside, seal it up, and the radiant heat cooks it beautifully. The manual says you can make tender, juicy roasts and sweet desserts this way.
Wow, wilderness gourmet. That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there with earth cooking, does it?
Nope. There's digging a steam pit. More elaborate, often for feasts, apparently.
Right.
Hot rocks at the bottom, layer of green vegetation, then food, more vegetation, then cover with dirt or tarps to trap the steam. And the most complex one described is the earth oven. It's got like a fire pit connected by a trench to a stone cooking box, and even a chimney lets you do multiple things. Open fire cooking, baking, rock frying, stovetop.
Amazing ingenuity. Really shows how people adapted. Now, finding those calories. Foraging and hunting. The manual hits us with a hard truth about wild edible plants.
Yeah, it's pretty blunt. Generally speaking, most wild edible plants, leaves, shoots, berries, most tubers are poor calorie sources. They provide vitamins, minerals, sure, but not a lot of energy. The big exception, tree nuts, like acorns, hickory nuts, walnuts, those are calorie powerhouses.
So chasing leafy greens might not sustain you. What about mushrooms? Everyone asks us about mushrooms.
The manual's advice is basically skip the fungus. It says there are like 70,000 species out there. Maybe 250 are actually good edibles, but roughly the same number can kill you. And most of the rest just taste bad or indigestible. The risk versus reward, just not worth it in a survival situation unless you are an absolute expert. Very clear on that.
High risk, low reward.
Okay.
So back to reliable plant calories, you mentioned acorns.
Yes, acorns are highlighted. High calorie, 475 calories per cup, apparently, and nutrient rich. But there's a crucial step, leaching. You have to soak them in water, changing the water multiple times to remove the bitter, harmful tannic acid. Then you dry them, grind them into flour for porridge or even biscuits.
Takes work, but a solid food source. The manual also mentions being a good steward.
Yeah, important point. Don't overharvest wild edibles. Leave plenty for wildlife and for the plants to reproduce. And it even suggests actively removing invasive species, like garlic mustard, which actually helps the native ecosystem and provides food.
Good perspective. Okay, trapping. Knowing your target species is key, it says.
Yeah.
And using quality traps.
Meaning, use braided steel cable snares with proper metal slide locks. Not that flimsy brass wire you sometimes see in cheap kits. Quality means it works, holds the animal securely, and trap safety for the trapper is huge too. Always use a safety stick or stone under a deadfall trigger while you're setting it. A fist-sized chunk of wood. Remove it only when the trap is fully set and you're clear. Prevents nasty accidents.
Very important detail. And finding bait doesn't have to be hard.
Not usually. Worms, slugs, grubs, beetles, you can find them under rocks, in rotten logs. Easy pickings. And here's a fun fact. The manual points out those same grubs and beetles are actually valuable survival food for humans if you cook them well. High in protein and fat.
Maybe if you're hungry enough. Okay, hunting. Using sound. Rattling antlers.
Yeah, during the deer rutting season, you mimic the sound of two bucks fighting by rattling antlers together. Then maybe rake the ground or scrape the antlers on a tree like a victorious buck marking its territory. Can draw other curious or challenging bucks in.
Clever. And make your own weapons. Bows.
Definitely covers carving the bow. Mentions specific hardwoods that work well. Osage orange, yew, ash, hickory. Emphasizes using dead, dry wood if you need it quickly. Also constructing a simple sling for throwing stones, or even a slingshot using surgical tubing and a forked stick. Good for small game, maybe even shooting arrows with practice.
Amazing skills. Okay, moving into more advanced bushcraft. Crafting tools, containers, primitive stone tools.
The manual highlights their simple power. Large stones as hammers for driving stakes or breaking wood, smaller ones for pounding tinder, cracking nuts or shellfish, or even for flint knapping, chipping other stones to make sharp edges. Then there's pottery, making a clay pot from scratch.
How does that work?
You find good clay, test it by trying to tie a wet piece in a knot. If it doesn't crumble, it's probably okay. Then you have to temper it, mix in sand or crushed quartz so it doesn't crack when fired. Shape your pot, let it dry thoroughly, then fire it carefully until it's hard. The manual says it should ring like a bell when you flick it. Takes patience and skill.
I love that it rings like a bell test. Very tangible. And an ingenious container, the bark trough.
Yeah, super clever. You take a single large sheet of bark, fold up the ends, and plug them with round stones or wood discs. Then you use improvised tourniquets, maybe twisted cordage around the plugs to seal them tight. Makes a watertight trough, perfect for rock boiling, heating water by dropping in hot stones.
Brilliant. What about working with animal hides?
Covers the basics. Transforming fresh skins into tough, stiff rawhide, or making flexible leather through oil tanning or vegetable tanning, or the softest stuff, brain tanning. Different processes for different needs. And for light, making candles. Dipping wicks in melted wax, beeswax burns longer than paraffin, it notes, or rolling wax around a wick or pouring into molds.
And preserving fat, rendering lard.
Yep, a long, slow cooking process to melt animal fat, then filtering it. Properly rendered lard stores, well, even in warmer temperatures, preserving those precious calories.
Okay, navigation and really reading the environment. Animal tracks. It's more than just footprints, right?
Oh, absolutely. The manual gets into the details. Learning the noticeable differences between tracks of deer, moose, raccoon, bear, coyote, fox, rabbit, even birds like turkey and grouse, looking at the pattern, the gait. But it stresses looking beyond footprints too. Check for trails, bedding areas, places where animals rubbed against trees, chewed branches, left hair or feathers, droppings. All these signs help you identify the species exactly and understand their behavior. Makes you a real observer.
That holistic view. Now, navigation tech, finding true north. The manual makes a big deal about the difference between true north and magnetic north.
Yes, and it's critical. True north is the geographic North Pole. Magnetic north is where your compass needle points and it wanders. The difference between them is called declination, and that difference can be huge, like 20 degrees off in places like Maine or Washington State. If you just follow your compass without adjusting for declination, you could end up miles off course.
So how do you adjust?
Modern topographic maps always show the local declination. You use that info to adjust your compass bearing or how you orient your map to the terrain. And the manual emphasizes learning to read those topo maps. They show the 3D world hills, valleys, streams, vegetation, trails on a 2D surface. Way more informative than a basic roadmap for wilderness travel.
Absolutely. And for pure bushcraft points,
Mm-hmm.
the improvised compass.
Hell yeah. Magnetize a needle, rubbing it one way on silk or hair sometimes works, or if you have a magnet. Then rest it on a leaf floating in still water. It'll align itself roughly north-south. Pure ingenuity with minimal gear. It's just amazing what you can do by understanding basic principles, right? Then, finally, the manual briefly touches on facing the cold, how our bodies fight heat loss naturally.
And how modern clothing has, well, maybe made us a bit less naturally resilient than our ancestors.
Exactly. It's a reminder of how far we've come technologically, but maybe also highlights some of the fundamental knowledge we might be losing touch with.
Wow. Okay, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today, from friction fires to building stone ovens, identifying plants, tracking animals, even first aid with just what's around you.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? In our world, with instant everything and resources everywhere, how many of these ancient fundamental skills are just quietly fading away?
Yeah. And what are we losing with them? What deeper understanding of resilience, of connection to the natural world, might we be missing because we don't know these things anymore?
It poses a really interesting question about what it truly means to be capable, to be prepared, beyond just the convenience of modern life.
It really does. What does it mean for your sense of self-reliance, knowing you could potentially build shelter, find water, make fire, get food, using nature and your own ingenuity? Something to think about.